We're here at Doyle's in Jamaica Plain, a favorite hangout spot for generations of Pauls. As we head toward the conventions, what better place to look back and look forward to this year's so unconventional race. So, my first convention, 1988, Michael Dukakis' big nomination speech, right? Remember, you guys remember that? I show up at the hall, and all of a sudden I hear angry shouting, like there's a riot breaking out. I'm like, oh great, protesters have broken into the hall. No, it's a bunch of fat cats in evening gowns and fancy suits who are furious because the hall is over capacity and the fire marshal won't let them in. And that was the first time I realized there's two universes at these conventions. The 1%ers up in their luxury boxes and the rest.
Did they get in? Were they able to get in?
A lot of people didn't get in, and hell hath no fury, like a big donor who can't get to his shrimp.
So these are donors, and the hall was over capacity because they had waited too long. They said, I don't want to go to the first few speeches.
Right.
I just want Dukakis.
No, they're going to walk in at the last minute like a high roller normally does. And that's what these conventions, to me, have become, is A, a TV show for the masses. It's a reality TV, and B, a schmooze for high rollers.
It is interesting because you see people walking around with their credentials and they're sort of very self-important, and then you'll have this bizarre collection of people walking around. Well, you'll see Henry Kissinger walk by, and then some network anchor, and then a reality TV star. You know, it's just it's a funny collection.
And then just your average Joe who's a delegate.
The delegates who are like from their Republican or Democratic town committee, right?
Yeah, and what about the conflict, to put it politely, between that reality and then the rhetoric of, oh, it's all for the people and the working classes and we're going to lift you up. And in the meantime, the only thing that's getting lifted up is expensive Scotch highballs in the luxury boxes. It's kind of disgraceful.
So a lot of these things are held in arenas or stadiums, and those luxury boxes you're saying are filled with the people who donated. Down on the floor, the actual delegates, but the prime seats are going to the people who have been giving money to the campaign.
Oh, absolutely. At the last convention, Democratic convention in Charlotte, the head of the convention was giving the press a tour, and he was bemoaning the fact that there aren't enough luxury boxes for the high rollers.
Do they then, are they there because they had already been donating, or are they also paying for the right to be at that convention and paying for those luxury seats?
Oh yeah, no, well, I mean, in some cases it may be a gift in exchange for all previous donations.
An in-kind donation.
Right, a gratuity.
But here's the thing, right? In both parties, this is the conflict this year between the high rollers, the establishment, and people who are saying, we want to take our party back.
And, you know, it's a problem for both of the presumptive nominees. Hillary Clinton obviously has this whole Wall Street baggage that she's carrying around. She needs to downplay that to get the Sanders vote back. And Trump also is claiming to be, you know, the champion of the working man and woman, maybe more man than woman, we'll see how he plays that. But he also he's a card-carrying 1%er.
Yeah. And he admits to it.
And isn't it interesting that on both sides of the aisle for this election, the populist movement is kind of overtaking it, right? I mean, that wasn't the case for a long time with the Republican Party, and even more so with the Democratic Party this year. It's a populist movement, the Sanders movement. Specifically for the Democratic convention, is there something Clinton can do to kind of mask that that's the case, that it's the 1%ers up in these luxury boxes and really making the deals, setting the agenda versus the delegates who are your average Joe?
That's a great question, and I'm sure that's what they're wrestling with. I almost wonder if the Democratic convention that you're covering, Liam, isn't going to be as much or more about Trump than it is about her. I mean, of course, they'll be singing her praises, but people know who Hillary Clinton is. They know how they feel about her. For her to rev it up and get over the top in November, she, I think, needs to make this a referendum on him, don't you?
Yeah. And interestingly enough, in terms of what you're talking about, I've been struck by how Trump will say, oh, I was one of those donors. I've written those big fat checks and I know how it works. Those people up in the luxury boxes, they usually call the shots, but this time around, I want to run, and I'm going to help you, little guy on the floor. I mean, we've never seen that before.
That has been a very clever tactic by Trump, because it takes him out of the hypocrisy of having to deny who he is, but also wink, wink, I get it. I'm the only one who can sort of represent you in the face of all this money because I've been part of it. I know how it works.
Isn't that one of the great paradoxes of his race in particular, is that he is the 1%. He is the billionaire class, and yet somehow he has revved up this populist contingent within the Republican Party, and he's bringing that all the way to the convention.
You know, in a way, it's an old story. You know, Franklin Delano Roosevelt wasn't exactly a pauper.
Or JFK.
Or JFK, but hey, whatever works, right?
Yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting to see the way that they deal with that at the convention and how they move that stuff around.